What's up, everybody?
What's going on, DGN family?
What's going on? Happy September 17th on Daily Gaming News. I am your host, Kaisa.
I am your other host, Marrone, and this is the Daily Gaming News Hour.
And we've got a lot to talk about, especially with the sales of the RTX 3080 and PS5 that immediately sold out, which is a disaster.
A disaster that on Nvidia's part we're kind of like, but on Sony's part it was like, wow, this is a really big failure over here.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it was botched this badly. And then we're going to talk about EA killing off the Origin name.
We're also going to be discussing about Amnesia's Rebirth is coming out on October 20th.
We'll be discussing the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake and what's different about it.
Also going to be jumping into the PlayStation blog that was posted regarding Avalanche WB Studios in its new Wizarding World of Harry Potter game that we got to see.
We'll get into Splinter Cell and Assassin's Creed VR games, which were announced for Oculus.
And then it is Thursday, so we are going to do our Throwback Thursday for On This Day in Gaming.
And thank you so much for sending us, the names of some game developers in the industry. We've reached out to all the ones that were suggested. One of them got back to us. So we've already got interview schedules out, and we're still asking for more. If you know anyone that might be interested on coming on the show, we would love to hear their names.
Exciting times. Looking forward to talking to these developers and getting to show off their games and see how it's coming along. And then, as always, we love to play a wonderful game of What's in the mug?
See, Kwasi already guessed mine because I'm being good about Invisalign, so I'll probably be having water for a while now. But no one guessed for Marrone yet, so we'll see.
No one has guessed for Marrone yet, and I give no hints. No hints over here.
None at all. Should we get right into it?
Let's jump right into this wonderful pre-order going live for the Nvidia RTX 3080 and then sold out pretty much everywhere online, I think roughly within like 30 minutes of being live.
So horrible. So Nvidia's new RTX 3080 graphics card went on sale earlier today, which seems like forever ago. It started at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern time. It seems like ages ago, and it seems like the new $699 GPU is already sold out pretty much everywhere. In the US, Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy, and Nvidia's own website are either listing the card as being out of stock or only with an option to be notified when a card is in stock. Even stock checking sites like nowinstock.net are coming up totally empty-handed.
Even a popular thread on the PC gaming subreddit alleges that the card was never available on Nvidia's own site. Several commenters say that they refreshed the page at the exact instant of the card's release, only to be immediately greeted with out-of-stock notices. Other users reported not receiving emails about the card's availability until then more than an hour after launch. According to PC Gamer, traffic from the event temporarily took down the servers of Overclockers, Novatech, and Newegg.
Across Twitter, reports are popping up of people attempting to buy the card in person and not having much more luck. One user reported people camping outside their local micro center for 2 days to secure one of the store's stock of just 11 cards. Another posted a picture of people queuing up overnight outside their local store before its manager was forced to inform a queue of 30 to 40 people that they could only guarantee 10 cards in stock, and in these long lines of people waiting for days are all wearing masks. I mean, we're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when The Verge visited a micro center in Brooklyn for the 10 a.m. Event today, they found that a queue had formed outside as people waited to get their hands on the new graphics cards, and they were not able to buy one.
So understandably, a lot of people are really angry about having missed out on the first batch of new hardware. The replies to a recent tweet from Nvidia offer some great examples. Some reported keeping multiple browser tabs open for different online stores ready to buy the new cards, only to miss out on all of them. Others said that despite their efforts to constantly refresh the page, they never saw the option to actually buy a card.
Yeah, so it is unclear how long these stock shortages could last. There was a recent tweet from Newegg where they previously said that it wouldn't make its entire stock of cards available on day one. However, Nvidia recently said that the cards are now in mass production with great yields, which gives us some hope that there might be some more stock available soon.
So the GPU has proven popular, and although it requires a powerful power supply to run on, it offers a huge boost in performance over Nvidia's previous generation of cards, especially when running at higher resolutions like 1440p and 4K, or when using new technologies like DLSS and ray tracing. Tom Warren wrote, "4K PC gaming is here, and it's finally a lot more affordable."
Now, the RTX 3080 isn't the only new graphics card that the company has coming out this year. In a week's time, on the 24th, the company is releasing the RTX 3090. This is a $1,499 monster of a GPU, which the company claims is capable of 60 frames per second at 8K. In October, the company plans to release the RTX 3070, which is a cheaper $499 card. And given the response we've seen today, we're not expecting that the 3070 is going to be much easier to get your hands on.
Competitor AMD also has its own graphics card announcement planned for October 28th, and if it makes you feel better, console gamers haven't had it much better over the past 24 hours, which we're going to get into about Sony's disaster of a PS5 pre-order launch.
Yeah. Do we want to dive in and talk about both at the same time?
Sure, why
I feel
not?
like both are warranted the same type of energy because those pre-orders for PlayStation 5 began a day early. And honestly, I think we can all agree that they are a mess.
Sony ended its presentation Wednesday that we all saw on the news right here with a long-awaited price and release date for the PS5, but stopped short of telling gamers when and where to buy one until a tweet seemed to make things clearer. Pre-orders would begin tomorrow, now today, on September 17th, or so it seemed for an hour or two, but now it's become an utter mess.
Gamers across the globe raced to get their pre-orders in as retailers jumped the gun. Prospective customers were met with broken links, page timeouts, and out-of-stock messages in the US and beyond. In the UK, for example, one Verge staffer managed to snag a digital edition in 3 minutes. The Amazon link was live and available to purchase.
Perhaps eager to capitalize on the demand, retailers quickly turned the pre-order situation into a free-for-all, opening the floodgates a day early and allowing the quickest and savviest buyers to swoop in. Some called or walked into their local GameStop to secure a pre-order a day early, or seemingly lucked out with one of Walmart's listings for the PS5 and PS5 Digital Edition. Walmart even gleefully tweeted that it was pushing the console out ahead of schedule, saying, quote, Make you wait to get the new PlayStation 5? Nah, that's not like us. Go on, pre-order it now. The tweet was posted at 3:53 p.m. on September 16th. That is a day earlier than it was supposed to.
That's correct. And I'll just go ahead and say, yeah, I just have water in my mug as well. I love the sparkling water, mineral water, tap water. I just feel like it's just filtered water. But yeah, good job, everybody. We got it pretty quick. So after that tweet happened, GameStop issued a press release advertising availability of the PlayStation 5 online, even though at the time it didn't actually have a product page where you could buy one. Now you can find product pages at Target and Best Buy, and GameStop's product listings also appear to be up, but hilariously, the site appears to have triggered some DDoS protection and was initially blocked for many people.
And good luck actually getting one. Even if you get through to one of those stores, not only are these listings flickering in and out of stock and erroring out of adding items to your cart, users have also had them ripped out of their cart in the middle of a transaction. Target said it's already completely out of pre-orders, and there are sources that have also been hearing that Walmart is already canceling some successful pre-orders as well, which is just a fiasco.
It really is. So it seems like you not only need to be able to, on the dot with your purchase, but also have to refresh your page a few times to get one in your cart, and be mighty quick about typing in your payment info because you can still lose that pre-order as you check out, which is actually something I went through, and we'll talk about a little bit more. The Best Buy cart doesn't seem to allow anyone to even begin to check out. I was fortunate enough to be able to make it to the payment page, to where I was pressing the button, place the order, about 300 times, only to then realize that this wasn't actually going to work out.
So even if you manage to get one, there's no guarantee that it's actually going to arrive on launch day. And attempts at buying one at Target initially showed that you might get it from Friday, November 13th to Wednesday, November 18th, before saying you just couldn't get one at all.
And if you're pre-ordering at GameStop, you might also have to go in person to pre-purchase the console. The minimum down payment for PlayStation 5 is $50 at the retailer, but GameStop notes that there are additional ways to pay for the system, including the flexible rent-to-own payment system that allows gamers to pay off products between 30 days to 1 year.
Amazon also didn't wait in the US. It opened up its own pre-orders shortly before midnight Eastern time and appears to have sold out of both versions before the clock struck 12.
And I got to just say this because I just saw this comment from Walligator. I loathe that type of behavior by your friend to buy up 5 of them because I'm sure it's coming as a resale, is my guess. But that's just the kind of thing that I feel like just fuels the problems even more. God, that's so frustrating to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So Sony had warned that it might be challenging to pre-purchase a PS5 due to high demand and low supply, but Sony also promised that it would give gamers plenty of advance notice about when pre-orders would begin. Jeff Keighley tweeted at 9:30 a.m. on July 17th, earlier today, "When will hashtag PS5 pre-orders start?" PlayStation Worldwide marketing head Eric Lempel says they will give gamers plenty of advance notice, hashtag Summer Game Fest, but this tweet was after some pre-orders had already gone live the day before.
Yeah, so what happened to that? What was the point of the whole invite-only pre-order registration form that Sony launched on August 26th, which I signed up for?
Sony CEO Jim Ryan claimed that more PS5 units will be available than PS4s were when they initially launched in 2013, and also denied a recent report from Bloomberg that stated Sony had been forced to cut back PS5 production by 4 million units. It's not yet clear how many PS5s will actually be available, but it's possible more shipments will appear ahead of launch. Walmart reportedly said it'll have more stock on September 22nd, while Target's product page suggests you check back on release date.
So, with regards to the 3080 and with regards to the pre-order for the PlayStation 5, the failure is on these companies' parts of adhering a date and making that date the date. You know, to say they didn't even actually express on the PlayStation Live event that the showcase when pre-orders were. They tweeted about it. And then they tweeted about it saying that it would be live tomorrow, today at select retailers. But that wasn't even meant to be true as well. And then you take the 3080 situation where people were going to be notified about when those pre-orders went live, and individuals were not notified until an hour after that pre-order was live. This is crazy that you have 2 really popular items go through the same exact situation almost.
On the same day, too, and this is, really frustrating to those people that try to, get that advance notice, to be ready to buy one, when they could. And I wonder what exactly happened wrong. What exactly went wrong? It seems like one retailer went live with the pre-orders too early, and then they all just kind of decided to sell a bunch of these units. I don't know if that means they're breaking some contract with PlayStation, if there was any communication, or if these retailers just decided, you know what, like, these other companies are selling the PS5, we're just going to do it too. And now they're all sold out.
Yeah, this is like, you're looking at Sony, and for the past few months we're like, oh my God, Sony's doing this, they're doing that, they're doing so well, they're doing so that. And I guess it's just, the truth of anything is everyone is far from beyond perfect. And this botched pre-order is a real black eye on Sony and the retailers, because the way in which they went about this, a lot of people feel misled and deceived and are ultimately let down by being told one thing and seemingly being met with a stark contrast to what they were being told.
Personally, I don't have any stake in this because I heard that, the PS5 pre-order was out, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get a good night's sleep and pre-order it tomorrow, like, I'll be fine. And now that they're sold out, I'm like, well, maybe it was my own fault that I didn't jump on it. So at least, I don't feel bad about this, but a lot of people really do, especially the ones that really wanted a PlayStation 5. It also seems like even if you bought one, which seems like there was a lot of luck involved, if you could actually get one in your cart, it doesn't seem like some of them are going to arrive on time, and you might have to wait a while before you actually get yours. I feel like there's also, an inconsistent policy between some stores. If there's, an item in your cart, that means it's yours to buy, while other websites, if it's in your cart, it can be taken right out of it. And I think
that's a crazy thing.
It needs to be made more clear, on which websites, if it's in your cart, if you can actually make that purchase, because it's just so frustrating to, have to fill out your card info as fast as possible, and it might not still go through anyway.
That's like being in line, being at the checkout, you've swiped it across and the barcode's red, you've handed the cashier your debit card to pay, and somebody walks up and goes, nope, it's mine. That's exactly what that's like, and that is an extremely frustrating thing And the fact that that's not met with that same type of respect as it would be if you were standing in store and you had it in your cart ready to check out, I get why the internet exploded in anger at this whole situation. And you know, I hope Sony's kickback on the Bloomberg article is true, that they are saying, no, we're not going to be less and we'll be fine and we'll have, you know, a lot on launch day. But now I'm even hesitant with launch day. Like with the way this whole thing was handled, I'm like, I might just wait. Just might wait it out.
Yeah, maybe, you know, I was excited about, you know, the new graphics card. I guess I'll try to get, you know, one of the 3090s probably on September 22nd. I mean, I'm pretty sure I budgeted for it for my new PC, but I feel like that's going to be, you know, hard to get my hands on. Yeah, that's going to be the monster GPU. I don't know. Yeah. I'll have to think about that. But something that I didn't really realize as a plus to buying digital games is that they're not going to be sold out. You know, if you buy a digital copy, there's no worry about the shipping. There's no worry about, you know, how many units they have. You can just download the game. So thank you for having, you know, a lot of games, pretty much every game be digital now for consoles. I'm a bit concerned about what's going to happen. It does seem like a free-for-all. Someone in the chat said they must have had contracts or they should have contracts. I believe there has to have been something contractual saying that they can't start selling these consoles early. I wonder if there's going to be any blowback for that. I hope there is. Yeah,
I do too. I would love to hear someone over at Sony come out and address this whole situation, because what they said wasn't what was happened. And this is like a first for them in terms of that regard of this type of mistake. And Microsoft has not hesitated to meme this themselves, which I give them credit for coming out and finding humor in this situation by being like, no, when we tell you it's ready to pre-order, it will actually be ready to pre-order. So, you know, I give them, you know, some props with how they've responded to this chaos.
I hope the Xbox launch or pre-order, you know, opening launch is going to be, you know, a lot smoother than what happened for the PlayStation 5. I assume because of this news that the PS5 was sold out, people are going to be jumping on the Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, some of these websites crashed, if it was kind of the same thing, not because of Xbox themselves, but just the sheer amount of people that are going to try to get their hands on a console.
Yeah, I agree. That'll be an interesting one to watch. What's up, Meg? Welcome. But yeah, this debacle was one that, oh man, I honestly was not foreseeing. I think I went to bed last night and was like, really? Did this just happen? What is going on?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And with the RTX 3080, I mean, I had just assumed that, you know, since they're making this graphics card relatively affordable, that means they're going to be pushing a lot of units. That means they decided that instead of, you know, having a high price and only selling a few, they had a lot of these to sell, you know, making it more affordable for everyone, affordable in heavy quotes. But no, they were sold out. Some of these stores only had 10 cards. I mean, what did they expect was going to happen? Did they want, you know, to create scarcity, or was this just, you know, they could only, you know, manufacture so many cards at a time?
That's a good point. I would say the one thing, because at some point, if you want a PlayStation 5 and you don't get it on launch day, you're going to get it a month after, or when, you know, more ship out. It might take some time. You eventually have one. I think the one thing that this does show is, like, the gaming industry is doing very well. Very well. Even in a time period like this, with what we're all going through in this pandemic, that is an industry that a lot of people, I hope, start to get behind even more. That they start to see the strength in the consumers who are quite active. And I am curious to see what happens with those 3090 cards because of their price point, because of their size and what they'll require with these PCs. I am interested to see how fast they go.
Me too. This is a great year for gaming. You know, I hope this leads to more of a shift in how, you know, a lot of mainstream culture looks at gaming, because the industry is just huge and it brings in so much money. And I feel like most people in the general mainstream, they care more about like movies coming out and TV shows. And while movies and TV makes a lot of money, there is an incredible amount to be made in games. And I hope, you know, that it's seen as something that's more, that's, you know, has more respect or renown, or, you know, people investing in games and people really taking gaming seriously, because it's not really a niche industry anymore.
No, that is true. And I think that even kind of leads into our next story, because the one thing that Electronic Arts is recognizing is not so niche anymore is their name Origin, as they are killing it off entirely.
After 9 anticlimactic years, the Origin name is no more. Going forward, EA will simply refer to its PC gaming client as the EA Desktop app.
So the video game publisher announced the move in an interview with Games Industry, saying that the name change is a part of a larger overhaul of the platform intended to create a more frictionless, fast, socially oriented experience for our players, where it becomes the best place for them to connect with the people they want to play with in the games they want to play.
Origin was launched back in 2011 as a home for EA games, much like Blizzard's Battle.net client, but with the intention of eventually making it a storefront that might one day rival Steam, LOL. That day never came, despite EA making Origin the exclusive home for many of its biggest franchises on PC, and the eventual addition of a gaming subscription called Origin Access.
So Peter Moore, then Chief Operating Officer, had said this in an interview back in 2012. It's one of those things where I would ask, give us 18 months to 2 years. We sit here 2 years from now, start looking at it then. I think the ability to have our own direct platform with consumer is going to be very important in the digital world going forward. Now, Moore left EA for the Liverpool Football Club in 2017, where he served as CEO up until last month.
Earlier this summer, EA finally brought a bunch of its games that were previously exclusive to Origin to Steam, and has since renamed Origin's subscription service EA Play and added it to Steam as well. So EA SVP Mike Blank told Games Industry that, "I think we're responding more effectively to the needs of our players today than we ever have, and Steam is part of that journey."
It's a very strong choice, and I think a smart choice for EA to make this decision. I think the Origin launcher was horrible. I hated it. Anytime I had to use it to update a game or to play a game, I was immediately met with emotions of displeasure, because it just was that kind of launcher. I don't know how to describe it unless you've used it and you know what it's like, the UI, the downloading, just everything. I'm happy that they're going this route, because I think this is going to do very well for their games and those Steam users who are like, I don't want to use anything outside of Steam because I know it, I trust it, and I love it.
I felt the same way about Origin. I thought it was very cumbersome. I only used it when I had to. I think I only had like The Sims 4 on there, and then I downloaded Apex Legends, but then I stopped playing Apex, and it just was something I didn't need. And if you want to compete, right now on PC, having a storefront for games, you've got to put a ton of money or a ton of games behind it, such as Epic is doing with the Epic Games launcher. It's really tough to compete with Steam. It's really tough to compete with what's already out there. I think this is a good move as well, that instead of, trying to fight this uphill battle, to just saying like, hey, we're going to sell our games on Steam. We're going to bundle in EA Access, I believe, with the Xbox Game Pass, and really, go that route instead.
Makes me excited for the Star Wars Squadrons games that's coming out. It's like, great, I don't have to download you and play you through the Origin launcher. I can get you through Steam, which I'm hoping to be the case, because that's a game I'm very excited about in terms of like breaking up the type of multiplayer experience I'm normally being exposed to now. So if that is a situation where I open up Steam and I look and I see it's available and it's going through the Steam launcher, I think that's gonna serve a lot of the community, that positive feeling towards EA, because EA has come with a lot of baggage, as we talked about here on DGN, and it really does seem like they're shifting more to let us create that experience that's more user friendly, consumer friendly, and ultimately is a bigger catch-all than what we were doing prior.
Totally. I hope with, Squadrons, I hope Squadrons has a successful launch. As Kane says, Apex was not fun for you. It's a lot to download, Origin to download Apex, and then maybe you have to update the Origin launcher, and, it was just so many things happening. I remember, I think I actually originally downloaded Origin to play the Star Wars Battlefront 2 demo, and I just remember it was like, I have to make a new account now, and I have to sign in with this, and I have to confirm this, and, that might not sound like a lot, really, but if I already have Steam, I already have, the Epic Games launcher, I don't want to have to download a new thing, make a new account, download all these extra things, make sure I have enough space to download all these things, is just not ideal, especially when there's easier options out there.
That's it, and that's what you just said is it hits it on the nose. Is that there are easier options out there? Why can't I have access to this content through those easier options? So it's a good choice. And yeah, Kane, of course, you know what game I'm excited about? I'm also excited about Cyberpunk 2077, which is not being locked to a specific launcher for PC.
Right, thank goodness. So another game that I'm excited about is Amnesia Rebirth, which is coming October 20th.
There is a new trailer that has dropped. So Amnesia Rebirth is a harrowing journey through desolation and despair from the Happy Fun Time gang at Frictional Games, and it's going to drop on October 20th. The studio announced the launch date with a new trailer, teasing some of the things that players have to look forward to as they embark upon a supernatural journey through the Algerian desert.
Despite the impression the title might give, Amnesia Rebirth is an entirely new game set roughly 100 years after the events of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It will follow the nightmarish adventures of Tassi Trianon, who awakens alone and amnesiac in the desert and must piece together what's happened and what to do next. The big difficulty is that she's not actually alone in the strictest sense, which means she's got more to worry about than simple starvation and exposure to the elements. As creative lead Frederick Olsen told the press in May, it's safe to say that Tassi is going through a terrible time in this game.
Rebirth promises to be similarly structural to The Dark Descent, but will employ new tricks and tactics that will reflect the studio's more sophisticated approach to storytelling. It's something that we all got a good taste of in Frictional's previous game, Soma.
So Ian Thomas said, I think possibly the other big influence on this game has been our own experiences working on Soma. It showed the studio that we could make games with a longer form story that builds up its horror over time rather than just concentrating on moment-to-moment gameplay.
And Rebirth will be available on Steam, Epic, and GOG, and let's take a look at that trailer.
Do you have your trailer up? Should I count us down?
I do. Count us down.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, play.
Just keep talking, Doctor. Keep talking. I'll find a way.
This music's great.
Yeah. Out the gate, creepy.
But you must try to keep calm, or it will get worse. You understand me, Tassi?
Where is everyone? Mother of God, what happened here?
It was a body.
Please. Lots of bodies.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Nice.
Friend or foe, huh?
Love it! You can pre-order the game now. If anyone doesn't know anything about the Amnesia games, they're pretty much generally called a must-play when it comes to horror. If anyone's like, hey, I'd like to get into horror games, chat always goes, Amnesia, play Amnesia!
So is it one of those, like, it's defenseless horror?
I believe it's defenseless. There's a lot of puzzles in it. You have to have a light source, and if you don't, you like start to go insane if you're in the dark too long and you start taking hits to your health. I don't think you can fight back. You've just got to do puzzles and you've got to be careful.
Cool. A game Marrone will never play. That's the description of a game that I will never play. So yeah.
And there are more than one. I think there's a trilogy out so far with Amnesia. This title of Amnesia Rebirth makes it sound like it's a remake, but it's, this doesn't look like a remake at all. I think I played the first one on PC on my stream, and I think I glitched out and wasn't able to solve a puzzle and got stuck. So, which is a problem with a lot of older games on PC anyway, that, something just doesn't work and you can't, especially with horror games, you can't tell if it's supposed to not work or not.
That's true.
Yeah, so hopefully this
a part of the
new
game?
one will be smoother. Yeah, is this a part of the game or is this just my computer here?
I'll never know. Is that the horror?
Yeah. Am I supposed to be wandering around in the dark for this long?
That's hilarious. Well, we'll have to look forward to that when it drops. I'll tune into your stream whenever you're playing it. If you are watching, someone else play it other than myself. But this next game that we're going to talk about is one I actually look forward to playing when it does come out, is the Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time remake, as we got more details about this game.
So it seems that time has rewound to give Ubisoft another chance at Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time. As revealed during the publisher's Ubisoft Forward Digital press conference last week, a full remake of the 2003 hit action-adventure is on its way from Ubisoft's Pune and Mumbai studios, reviving Sands of Time in Ubisoft's Anvil engine with improved gameplay and an expanded story that adds to the tale told in the original.
So if you missed the Sands of Time the first time around, it focuses on the titular prince as he platforms and battles his way through a palace ravaged by magical sands of time. Now, the prince has a couple of useful advantages, though. First, he's incredibly agile, can wall run, can climb crumbling structures, and he can leap huge gaps with parkour abilities. Second, if he does blow a jump, or takes too many blows from an enemy sword, he can rewind time to the moments before his demise and try a different path.
As director Pierre-Sylvain Guiers explained in an interview with GameSpot, when Ubisoft looked to remake The Sands of Time, it identified areas it could improve to make the game a little easier to play than it was 17 years ago. That meant alterations to the combat, which, though acrobatic and inventive, was also cumbersome and frustrating, as well as the game's stationary camera angles, which could sometimes make it tough to keep your eyes on the prince or to make certain jumps.
That is very true. I remember that fondly about that game. So Guiers said this. He said, "We know that there were some tweaks to provide for the players if they wanted to fulfill the expectation for a 2020 game. So we stayed true to the story. We stayed true to the overall design of the game. However, we did improve a lot of the other 3 C's. That's character, camera, and control, because the camera was the most out of date, as well as the combat. So we definitely approach this remake with improving and enhancing the velocity of the prince and the acrobatic moves that you have to perform to get through the 40 levels. So that was our main focus. Now stay true to the original design, respect the beautiful story and narration, but enhance everything that we could, from the navigation to the camera, the targeting system, and the responsiveness for the player."
Kane mentions that you saw the movie Prince of Persia. I believe that was with Jake Gyllenhaal, and apparently it was super terrible.
Yeah.
I never saw the movie. I was told not to watch it, but I did
The Persian
play
actor
the game.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yes, the Persian actor Jake Gyllenhaal. So one big change Guiers explained for the game is the speed at which the prince moves and navigates his environment. Players expect a higher velocity of movement out of characters than they did in 2003, he said. So movement and control of the prince has been tuned with that in mind. Elements of combat have also been tweaked. In the Sands of Time, enemies will often respawn until the player manages to use the prince's signature weapon, the Dagger of Time, to retrieve the magical Sands of Time from the area. It's the sands that power the enemies, so you have to go after it if you want to shut them down for good. And Guier said the remake should telegraph that fact to players a little better than it did in 2003.
One thing that isn't getting reworked, however, is the Sands of Time story. Ubisoft is using the original script from the 2003 game, and though the prince's ally, Farah, is now played by actress Supinder Rach, she's from The Expanse and The Strain, and returning to the project is Yuri Lowenthal from Marvel's Spider-Man, who voiced the prince in the original Sands of Time and in a few other games since the franchise.
Dialogue has been fully re-recorded to go with motion capture performances for the remake, which sets it apart from the original. And although the new Sands of Time remake uses the original script, Lowenthal said, and Geyer said that some lines cut from the 2003 game have made it back into this version of the game. Geyers noted the addition of motion capture has changed the feel of the performances, especially the interactions between the prince and Farah.
Lowenthal said this: there was something magic about the first game, and the character has remained close to my heart. And so getting back to do it again was both exciting and terrifying, because I just had the potential to mess it up as much as I had the potential to bring something new and make it better. But just the fact that I got to do that is just unparalleled in my career, and to get to come back after so many years for another stab at something I loved so much.
Yo, what's up, The Crow Show? How you doing? Also, welcome
Crow
Philip to the stream. So, a portion of the Sands of Time takes place in India before the game heads to 9th century Persia. And part of the work the Pune and Mumbai studios are bringing to the remake is in reimagining the art design and architecture of the original to bring it more authenticity. That was also a consideration in casting, Lowenthal said.
So that was a bigger conversation earlier on, because it is a different world for the better as far as representation in games is concerned than it was in 2003. This is Lowenthal speaking. And he had his own concerns about going into it, but they went back to the fact that this is a remake of a very specific game. So while he was nervous in today's day and age to go back to that, they all agreed that because this was a remake and not a new game, that they would go back to the original part of it. Supinder is such a wonderful and talented actor and brings a strength to the role that he thinks it will have the same relationship, but they'll really update it in many ways just for her being her.
Geyer said, we definitely wanted to bring authenticity to the characters because we really pay attention to this for the production and for the players. But when you're talking about the prince and when you're talking about Sands of Time, when we had the chance to work with Yuri, it was quite of use. We wanted to play on the nostalgia, and Yuri's voice in itself is actually such a trigger for that nostalgia because of the voice, the intonation. It was straightforward that we definitely wanted to work with Yuri to bring the player the exact same feeling that they got in the original game.
That remake, The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, releases on January 21st for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC via the Epic Games Store and the Ubisoft Store.
This game was so fun. I'm glad it's getting a remake. Some of the graphics don't really look next gen from what we've seen in the trailer, but it does really look like it'll be fun. No, they didn't really look current gen either.
Yeah, I think it's a slight update graphically that they're saying it's there, but when you look at it, you're kind of like this. You'd almost expect a more realistic feel to the game itself, maybe like akin to Assassin's Creed, the way that looked. But this still kind of almost has the cartoonish type of vibe to it from the original that I only assumed back then was just due to graphical limitations. Why it wouldn't be getting just a whole new, paint over is something that I'm interested in that choice.
Me too. There are some details like the scabbard of his dagger, is that the word for it? Like that look really nice, but overall I'm not noticing, anything particularly astounding with the graphics here. I'm also surprised they even brought up diversity when it came to casting, because their response was pretty much like, it's not 2003, you've got to be diverse in casting, but we're going to go with just the same people we have. And it's like, you didn't need to say that. You could just say that these, actors are reprising their roles. I think that's totally valid. I think with a lot of iconic voices, I understand that appeal. I think if an actor did a great job voicing a character, they should be brought back to revoice that character. I don't think they needed to necessarily bring up diversity in this case because it just kind of made them look bad.
Yeah, that might. Yeah, I think this is probably just that choice of like, hey, we should address it, and then when you address it, you were like, it was unnecessary to address it. It was like you made an effort, but what? Why?
Yeah.
In the context of the game itself, I will say this: that for those of you who haven't played The Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, it is one of those nostalgic memories for me. Rewinding time and platforming and the puzzle solving. That was a game I loved a lot when it came out. I was a huge fan of it. I know a lot of the stuff from that game bled over into Assassin's Creed and the development for Assassin's Creed. So there was a lot of that as well, where it was just like, it was really cool to see that growth in terms of the code almost, you would say. So but for me, again, I was like, man, I was hoping they were going to take all of this good that's come from Assassin's Creed and now use that to bolster this remake as kind of like this full circle event, which doesn't look like it happened.
It doesn't, and when I think about games from that generation being remade now, I'm thinking of, for example, Fable, which we saw just a small teaser trailer, but it looked so next-gen, it looked so fantastical and with so many details that when I see a remake like this, especially from a big game, you know, being backed by Ubisoft, I believe, right? I'm surprised that it doesn't look quite as stellar.
Yeah, it's not like they don't have the money to make it look good and give it that touch that it needs to feel like it fits within 2020. And that's why I'll say to those who haven't played it, play it. When it comes out, I think you'll have a great time, a good experience, because the first one had that effect on a lot of people, which is why the rumors of it were swirling and people were getting behind it and getting really hyped for it. And then the Ubisoft Forward event dropped, and then people saw the game and were like, oh, okay. You know, and that ultimately is what you're kind of left with, is the people who were big fans of the game walk away with not the tenacity you would hope that they would have about a remake dropping and getting to play and go back through and experience the game again, but just kind of this like mixed feeling, which is what you really want to avoid to the target audience, who is originally the people who would be going to spread, you know, more information about it by word of mouth. Right.
I hope that even though they're changing up the camera angles for the better and they're making the combat a little more fast-paced, I still hope that it's as fun as the original, because if it is, and I would recommend, you know, this remake as a way of, hey, if you never played the original, you know, it's kind of, I don't know if you can even play that. I don't know if it's out on PC anymore, or if it's like posted. I don't know how you would be even able to play the original right now. But if you haven't played the original, then I would recommend, hey, you should play the remake as just a way to experience this very classic game. You know, this great story, great voice acting, you know, a lot of fun, the way, you know, the combat works with rewinding the sands of time. But for any old returning fans, if you wanted, you know, a big... if you wanted a big second wind of Prince of Persia, I don't think you're necessarily gonna recreate an experience better than what you originally did.
That's a great point. But I will say this much though: there is a game after that event yesterday that we are super excited about experiencing, because PlayStation Blog posted talking regards to Avalanche WB Studios in contributing new content to the beloved Wizarding World franchise.
So, the blog writes, sometimes I stop to appreciate the surreal nature of my story meetings. How should this character's voice change when they drink polyjuice? How long do house elves live? Are Grathborns omnivores? These are the types of questions that drive us towards authenticity, and the types of questions you only think to ask when you have steeped yourself in the lore.
Goes on to say that developing Hogwarts' legacy at Avalanche is a team endeavor. Every department understands that immersive storytelling works best when it is woven throughout the DNA of the project. What's more is that we take seriously the responsibility of contributing new content to the beloved Wizarding World franchise.
The PlayStation blog reads, the Portkey Games label gave us a unique opportunity to return to Hogwarts during a different era. We are always asking ourselves how we can draw from the rich library of characters, creatures, and themes, and imagine how those details would influence the school more than a century before Harry Potter's arrival. Who was the headmaster? What challenges did the students face? What influenced their society before Tom Riddle, before Newt Scamander, which I don't even know who that is. They say, I like to say what we are giving fans is something familiar in a way they have never seen.
So they said that we embrace what we know and challenge ourselves to expand upon it. Nearly headless Nick would have been floating around, loyal and cheerful as ever. The Forbidden Forest was still forbidden and home to centaurs not likely keen on human interaction. Goblins were around, but this lot certainly didn't work at Gringotts. The village of Hogsmeade was there, and Ollivander has been making one since 382 BC. Often the difficult task is choosing which details we weren't going to explore.
This is an exciting time to develop immersive experiences. The new opportunities provided by the PS5 are literal game changers. With innovative high-definition graphics, a player can practically feel the terror of Inferi bearing down upon them, sense the ground rumbling beneath them as a herd of angry centaurs surrounds them. Even dueling against a deadly dark witch takes on a new level of realism thanks to the controller's ability to imbue sound and touch into every moment.
So when the first book came out, this individual said, I became an instant fan. I see each day the multi-generational appeal these stories have earned, and that he is proud to be a part of this amazing journey and very grateful to what they can finally share with their excitement to the world. It is a labor of love, and the real magic comes from the dedication and imagination of a team who wants nothing less than to make this an authentic and compelling Wizarding World game.
To totally put a damper on the situation, the Crow Show brings up a point that I've been thinking about and haven't yet come to a conclusion because the Crow Show says the response to anything HP is wild due to JK's awful comments over the years. We'll be interested in seeing the reaction at release. I know a lot of the actors, in the Harry Potter movies have come forward and say we do not condone what JK Rowling is saying about trans people. We believe trans rights are human rights. We believe that trans people should have rights. And they said that while you can choose to not support J.K. Rowling, we don't want, what the Harry Potter legacy has meant to you to be taken away or to be tainted. A lot of people have Harry Potter tattoos. A lot of people, it was a massive part of their childhood. And these actors were saying, still keep that special to you. So I wonder how many people will choose not to play this Harry Potter game because they don't want to support J.K. Rowling, or how many people are going to go into it to try to relive, that special part of their childhood. Because the Harry Potter, franchise is just so beloved. It is so horribly unfortunate that the author has to be such a terrible person.
I think, when I hear this, one of the areas for me is that once a story is told and it's put out there and I have a personal reaction to it, though the author is the author of the story, it is still mine and my own. And the way in which I have a connection with it doesn't necessarily mean I have to have a connection with the author themselves. So if it is that feeling of I'm upset and I am displeased by, this perspective that this person has, good. Share that, express that, but still have fun in the world that you connected to, in the world that helped you get through whatever it was you were getting through, because it was an escape for you. We're doing a lot of storytelling now with H.P. Lovecraft in cinema and in games. H.P. Lovecraft was not a good human being. He is someone you can go look back on, and he was a terrible, terrible human being. Now, that is important that you address that. And that is important that you talk about that, but that doesn't mean to completely disregard the intellectual property that he created, because there was something there that was compelling, and it was that form of escape and horror that was profound. And I think Harry Potter as a story has that same type of mark on our generations of impact and how it transcends the author.
Right, as Black Phillip says, Harry Potter is bigger than just a creator. It's culture at this point. It's way bigger than J.K. Rowling at this point. He said you don't blame anyone for not supporting it, but it's not like she's even involved with this game. I don't know what her involvement is. I'm sure she's at least getting money, because it's her IP. So if you buy this game, you are giving money to J.K. Rowling. I think it would be kind of amazing if, the people who did play this game and streamed this game streamed it with a trans, charity fundraiser, or somehow used, playing this game to try to, override some of the damage that J.K. Rowling has contributed to, I think might be a great way to approach it, because, as you said, Harry Potter is its own thing. It's just so terrible that, buying anything Harry Potter is giving money to J.K. Rowling, but also it is bigger than her at this point.
Yeah, and that's just the unfortunate aspect of the human condition, is that we are these broken people that have these one hands of creating beauty, and then on these other hands can just spew ugliness. And it's a really hard experience, especially for entertainment, because some people can just tell these amazing stories and woo us and wow us, and then you learn about them in person and you're like, oh my God, how did you tell such a story like that?
Right.
And that's just what we've learned to kind of like grow up with and deal with. And I love that idea,
Yeah.
you know, find a way to take something that is bad and turn it into something that is good. I am going to play this game. I am going to be a fan of this game, and I am still going to reject her opinions on things that I vehemently disagree with. So I think you can do both. You know, I think you can have an amazing time with a game that sounds wonderful, right? When you really break down what this game is supposed to be, they're talking about a level of detail that is exciting. You're taming creatures. You're learning which school you're going to get involved in, what path are you going to go down, where are you going to go explore, like all these things that I don't know if anybody's ever been to the Harry Potter theme park.
Oh, it's great.
You just get lost.
It's amazing.
Because you just want to be able to go like, let me step in that reality and see what it's like. So the fact that they've gamified this and they're going to give us an experience that I feel sounds parallel to something as with much depth as like Cyberpunk had or is going to have is something that intellectual property hasn't seen yet.
It hasn't, and I just want to say congratulations to Meg for being able to buy a PS5. You are one of the few people in the world.
That's right, I saw that tweet.
That has managed to do that.
Congratulations.
So a game that we don't have to choose between our morals or a bit fun and meaning between is Splinter Cell and Assassin's Creed, which are getting the VR treatment for Oculus.
What? It's official. It is official because Ubisoft has announced 2 VR games based on Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell during Facebook Connect's event. And Facebook Connect is the new name for the company's annual Oculus VR showcase.
Which I totally missed out on this Facebook Connect. I wasn't plugged into this. Sorry, Facebook. So, as previously rumored, Ubisoft confirmed that it is developing 2 new VR games based on its popular stealth franchises. Ubisoft Red Storm VP Elizabeth Loverso announced the news on Facebook's virtual stage to introduce the made-for-VR titles.
Ubisoft talked about its early history with VR, including titles like Star Trek Bridge Crew, which if you haven't played is a lot of fun, and how Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell VR will be made from the ground up exclusively for Oculus VR platforms.
Ubisoft Red Storm, the company division focused on Tom Clancy games, will lead development for both Splinter Cell and Assassin's Creed VR, with additional support from Ubisoft Reflections, Ubisoft Dusseldorf, and Ubisoft Mumbai.
And no other details have been released as a release date or gameplay being revealed. And I gotta say, I'm a little uneasy about the whole, it's exclusive to Oculus VR platforms.
I know! You know, chat saying, oh, Zuckerberg is somewhere being like, oh, you two didn't watch the Facebook Connect? I've been meaning to sell my Quest. I'm pretty openly, not a fan of Facebook. Although I do think the Quest is a great piece of technology.
It really is.
It really is. I am psyched that there is a new Splinter Cell game coming out. I am a bit hesitant that it's coming out on VR because VR games, while phenomenal, are still a bit clunky, or unless you have a big space to move around in, it can, reality can kind of get in the way of the game where, let's say you're in a room in VR, you can walk around freely, but if your room is pretty small, which most people's are, you can take a few steps and then you have to use the controls to move around. And then you can take a few steps, and I personally am always like, oh, am I going to get outside of the Guardian boundary? Yeah. Like, I'm, I can't walk this far. And so I like a lot of, kind of puzzle things in VR where it's not super action-y. I don't know how well Splinter Cell is going to translate to that.
I am upset due to the fact that these games started on multiple platforms. It wasn't locked exclusively to Sony's console. It wasn't locked exclusively to Xbox's console. It wasn't locked exclusively, I believe, to Nintendo, because I think it was on GameCube as well. Wow. Like, this is an odd choice by Ubisoft for me, because I'm just like, why would you do this? Why would you lock it? Because why not have it where it can just be accessible to all VR in Windows mixed reality as well, or Steam VR? Why solely Oculus? And knowing that public perception of Facebook right now isn't that great, you would make this decision and stick it through.
Yeah, it just seems very strange. I think Assassin's Creed VR sounds super cool, but I wonder how easily you're going to be able to, like, you can't parkour with your VR headset.
There are some games. The way they do it is really cool.
Really?
How in which parkour works out, and it's a lot of fun. But the one part that I will add to this level of like, oh, what is going on here is the Oculus Quest 2 releases in a couple of weeks.
It does.
And with the Oculus Quest, you do not need a Facebook account in order to use the Quest headset. With the 2, it is required that you have a Facebook account in order to be able to use the headset. Now, you can just create a random account, give no personal information to it whatsoever, and link that account to it. But you do have to take into account, we don't know what it is necessarily they have access to when you're using their headset while it is logged into Facebook. So, yeah, I hope Ubisoft maybe goes, maybe this wasn't the right decision and we need to break this contract and just take the loss, because Splinter Cell's bigger than just one specific exclusive hardware.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who will be like, oh, I'm going to buy, you know, a Quest or buy an Oculus just to play the new Splinter Cell game. I think a lot of people who have the Quest, you know, if you happen to have the Quest, you know, you like Splinter Cell, you might try this, or I think it would be a cool VR experience for those who have VR, but I don't think this is going to send anyone over there. I'm also just, I'm aware of, you know, internet security issues and things like that, and I know for like mass surveillance, apparently gait tracking is a thing now, which actually works pretty well. Like the way you walk can be broken down by machines to identify you, and some people might be like, oh, Kaisa, you're just being paranoid, you know, wearing an Oculus Quest isn't going to give your gait over to Facebook. I realize that, but I still don't like knowing that Facebook has access to the way I walk when I do wear my Quest, so I am a bit hesitant when it comes to that.
I echo everything that you just said. I think that information is important to protect and to be aware and to be made aware of. I think that is transparency that needs to exist. To plug another area, another place to go and learn a little bit more is that on Joe Rogan's podcast, he recently spoke to Edward Snowden, and there was some information there I think people should learn about and become made aware of. And with technology like this and getting and locking it in this way to one specific place, having access to your potential information and privacy such as that, this is a really hard thing for me to sit. I'm like happy and super sad at the same time. I saw this news and was like, yeah. Yeah, that's what happened.
That's the reaction. I just had to pause here because I'm like, are you going to be able to do this in VR? You need like a jungle gym in your house. I'm sure they'll optimize it so maybe you can only move like vertically up ladders and
I think
things like that.
your legs move on their own by the behavior of your arms. Yeah.
Well,
There's a few stealth games that have come out, but yeah, it's so true. It's like you naturally want to move your legs and you fall back.
Right? Yeah. How does that even work? Before the stream ends, you know, it is Thursday, so I wanted to be able to touch on this day in gaming segment.
Which means 7 years ago, September 17th, 2013, Grand Theft Auto 5 released.
Which is incredible. This game is still going strong.
Still slamming.
The development team drew influence from their previous projects such as Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne 3 and designed the game around, you know, 3 lead protagonists to innovate on the core structure of its predecessors. I actually didn't really consider that it took those 2 legendary games into account, you know. I feel like that just speaks to why it's so successful. Those games are so beloved, and so is GTA 5.
They really are, and it was extensively marketed and widely anticipated. The game broke industry sales records and became the fastest-selling entertainment product in history, earning $800 million in its first day and $1 billion in its first 3 days. It received widespread critical acclaim with praise directed at its multiple protagonist design, open world presentation, and gameplay. However, there was, of course, a lot of controversy related to its depiction of violence and women.
Considered one of 7th and 8th generation console gaming's most significant titles and among the best video games ever made, it won year-end accolades, including Game of the Year awards from several gaming publications. It is the second best-selling video game of all time with over 135 million copies shipped, and one of the most financially successful entertainment products of all time, with about $6 billion in worldwide revenue.
That is crazy. This game is still going strong. The online, the RP, the fact that I still see people on friends list playing it. I still see people having an amazing time with it. They've released content after content after content for GTA Online. There's of course been no story DLC, but for them, I'm like, I don't think we have to because we have story in the DLC we're releasing for GTA Online. I can't believe this game is still as monstrous as it was, and it released this day 7 years ago.
Happy birthday! Happy 7th birthday, GTA 5! I love the comment of the game that is its own sequel. I mean, in every one of these, like the PS5 event or the Xbox events, all the comments just go GTA 6, GTA 6. As far as we know, GTA 6 isn't going to come out for at least a few more years. Don't expect anything. It is still, heavily being developed. So GTA 5 is going to be your answer.
There is speculation in 2022, I believe that it is, because based on this was the whole, what's this mean? In 2022, there is a huge budget set aside for marketing out of Rockstar. And that is where the speculation is that they're going to do the same massive amount of marketing like they did for Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2022 for GTA 6. Which I wouldn't be surprised being almost 10 years from the last title that it would drop around that time. So we'll be keeping our eyes open and hopefully see some leaked gameplay here soon.
Hopefully. I feel like we've got to manage our expectations a little bit. Some people are also, accusing Rockstar of being a little bit greedy since GTA 5 is still such a cash cow. It's still going strong, but also, their new game, there isn't nearly enough to pretty much release anything. Maybe we're going to get a teaser of GTA 6 soon, but that might be about it. But GTA 5, is still super successful, so I also think there's no reason to particularly rush into a GTA 6 yet.
That is very true. I think there's a few game developers out there that are taking that same approach to gaming and wondering why are these games taking so long to get their sequels? What is happening? So
what is happening?
On this day in gaming, Grand Theft Auto 5 released. What an amazing throwback to a game that has I think become legendary.
Absolutely. But that does bring us to the end of our daily gaming news for today, September 17th. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat. So tomorrow we're going to be live again from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. As always, we're going to have reruns after this show, as well as posting our segments to YouTube.
Yes, it has already been an hour. Sometimes it just goes by so fast and you're like, oh, wow, we're already done. This is amazing. So thank you so much, everybody, for stopping in and joining with us, knowing that we are live from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. If you check our VODs, you like us, you follow, subscribe. Thank you so much. This is not possible without all of you amazing human beings, the members of the DGM family. We love and appreciate your existence, and you can continue to add to our mailbag. A lot of your great ideas and suggestions can be turned and come into fruition as we have an interview that's getting lined up with a game developer probably in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that when we post about that.
Thank you so much for all your suggestions. If you or anyone works in, the gaming industry that would like to be interviewed, especially, game developers or people working behind the scenes in game, we would love to potentially have them on the show. So let us know, as well as any topics that you might have.
Absolutely. But for this day, September 17th, 2020, I am Marrone.
I am Kaisa. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
See you next time, everybody.